acknowledge that lighting into dark areas is an instrument that will shake or move away those people that are of the dark society. So it keeps illuminating the whole environment, and we are training people too, in which all this will help what we call news. And if it is news is what will make us illuminated, blow our minds, take us away, or bring to us what we may not have opportunity to see. And all in all, I welcome you all to the second anniversary of Olowu of Owu Kingdom. Come July 29th to its August 4th. Thank you so very much. We are glad to be here.
Research, information and training institution dedicated to policy-oriented scholarship on questions of democratic development and peace building in the West African sub-region. He also served as the Secretary of Citizens Forum for Constitutional Reform, a coalition of over 100 civil society organizations committed to a process-led and participatory approach to constitutional reform in Nigeria. Previously, he was a lecturer at the Delta State University, Lagos Center, and has published many scholarly articles on democracy, gender, overcoming challenges of transformation in Nigeria, national security and policing in Nigeria, alternative development strategy for Nigeria, public administration reforms and the emergence of Buhari 2015, leadership development and change, triumphant Christian living, called to serve God and humanity, reigning as kings and priests, and contemporary issues on development and change in Nigeria. He is the co-editor of 2 authoritative books on constitution making and constitutionalism in Nigeria, contentious issues in the review of the 1999 Constitution and the citizens' approach to making a people's constitution in Nigeria, and 2 others. One on poverty eradication, titled Poverty Eradication in Nigeria, Perspectives on a Participatory and Pro-Poor Approach, and other on the Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, titled Can Nigeria Achieve the MDGs in 2015? In all, he has 53 academic publications, including 10 books and 16 articles in local and international journals. Please clap if you want to. He is a fellow of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria and Institute of Strategic Management, ISMN Chartered. He is a past president of the Institute of Strategic Management Nigeria and president of the Ejiro and Otive Iguzo Foundation. He sits on the board of several organizations, including Oendo Foundation, Police Health Maintenance Limited, Police HMO, Center for Women's Health and Information, Nigerian Women Trust Fund, and Partnership Opportunities for Women Empowerment Realization Power. In recognition of his leadership roles, he was appointed by the immediate past Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, in October 2012 into the global network of
people already established. But just to first and foremost thank and acknowledge my comrade and friend, the chairperson of the organizing committee, Dr. Abeokuta, for making it possible for me to be here today. I also thank my friend and comrade, Lolade Bamidele, I call him Omoluabi, for following up with me and making sure that I'm here today. Okay. I worked with him at CDD, Center for Democracy and Development, from 2000 to 2003. The topic of the keynote is national balance infrastructure, institutional capacity, and diversity as tools for building blocks and good governance in Nigeria. In this keynote address, I want to make 3 arguments. The first argument is that every nation requires building, and infrastructure, institutional capacity, and diversity are critical building blocks. The second argument is that the poor state of development of Nigeria is partly as a result of lack of infrastructure, low institutional capacity, and lack of embracing diversity. And many reasons are responsible for this. We'll attempt to share some of the reasons. And the final argument is that we can change the narrative by participating in politics, building transformative leaders, organizing a movement for change, and forging a developmentalist coalition of Nigerians to push for nation building, sustainable development, and good governance. As an introduction, we argue that national balance is necessary for nation building, sustainable development, and good governance. Tribalism, ethnicity, manipulation of ethnicity and religion, the fact that the country cannot deliver services, the fact that Nigeria has poor development indices, the fact that Nigeria has the largest number of poor people in the world, despite that its population is just about 1/7 of the population of India and China. Then we move on to infrastructure development. And we all know that infrastructure is very important for the development of a nation. The infrastructure sector is made up of electricity, roads, telecommunication, railways, irrigation, water supply, sanitation, ports, airports, storage facilities, and oil and gas. And we know that there is no adequate stock and quality of infrastructure in Nigeria. There are various attempts that have been made to improve infrastructure in Nigeria, including public-private partnership, Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, and the implementation of an infrastructure master plan. But despite all of this, there is a poor state of infrastructure in Nigeria. And there are several reasons for this poor state. The first and probably the most important reason is the dearth of visionary leadership with oversight, with foresight. Visionary leadership will provide a strategic direction, resource mobilization, vision, and foresight for the delivery of infrastructure. We know that under Lee Kuan Yew's leadership, Singapore transformed from a third world country to a first world country. Some of the key infrastructures included creation of world-class ports, the Changi Airport, and effective transportation system. Sheikh Mohammed Ibn Rashid Al Maktoum spearheaded the transformation of Dubai from desert to a major global city. It involved the building of infrastructure. Of plans for development of infrastructure. The third reason is insufficient funds. The master plan states that Nigeria will need 2.3 trillion naira to raise its infrastructure stock to international benchmark. Meanwhile, Nigeria is suffering from a revenue problem. Nigeria has one of the lowest tax to GDP ratios in the world, hovering over 6 to 7%, significantly lower than the average for sub-Saharan Africa of 16%. Nigeria has a smaller national budget than Algeria, Angola, Egypt, Libya, Morocco, and South Africa. So I wonder where we get that appellation of a giant of a... Nigeria 2019 budget was merely $29 billion. The one of South Africa, which has about 25% of Nigerian population, is $130 billion. The fourth reason is the unusually high cost of contracts in Nigeria. Studies have shown that the cost of executing construction contracts in Nigeria are extremely high, and Nigeria pays. I wonder whether it will not be better to just put the money and match them on the ground, whether it will not be stronger than the tar road they are making with it. Institutional capacity. Institutional capacity refers to the ability of government institutions to effectively formulate and implement policies and deliver public services. Strong institutions are fundamental to good governance and sustainable development. Scholars have documented that since the 1950s and 1960s, the public sector in most African states has generally been regarded as pivotal to promoting socio-economic development. However, the public sector was not able to perform effectively because of several factors, including accumulation of excessive power, lack of accountability and representation of an industrial policy, which, among other things, will identify industries for government support with clear targets, including technological upgrading, adaptation and innovation, job creation, and export requirements. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a patriotic, nationalistic, developmentalist coalition with a shared vision for national development can counteract the elite capture that we are currently witnessing in Nigeria. Thank you very much for your attention.
Who have come to join us here today. Please welcome into our midst Mr. Salako Abayomi, the State PRO, Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities, Ogun State Chapter. Please put your hands together for him, please. We also have in our midst the Chief Executive Officer, Pelican Valley Nigeria Limited, Dr. Babatunde Adeyemo. Dr. Adeyemo, thank you for coming. Alhaji Ola Animashaun is the Director of Advocacy, Consumer Protection Advocacy Initiative, Nigeria, and a member of the PenPushing platform. Please put your hands together for Ola Animashaun. Dele Bodude, the ex-Director, News Agency of Nigeria. Thank you for coming out today. Thank you, you're welcome. And let me also acknowledge the presence of High Chief Mustafa Abdulakim Owolabi, the Akin Fiwatolu of Egbaland, and the Chairman Egba Agenda Forum. Celebrate him specially. Mrs. Stella Sawyer, Corporate Affairs Manager, Apple and PS Limited. You're welcome into our midst today. The Executive Chairman, State Universal Basic Education Board, Ogun State, Chief Dr. Femi Majekotomi. Please put your hands together for him. Where are you, sir? Okay. Dr. Adewale Kupoluyi, who is representing the President, International Press Institute, IPI Nigeria. Welcome to our midst today. Please put your hands together for him one more time. The Director, Corporate Communications, Federal University of Technology, Akure, Adegbinro Adebanjo. You're welcome. We sincerely appreciate you. Thank you for coming. Simi Atabaru, the Chairperson, Society for Peace Studies and Practice, SPSP, Ogun State Branch. Please we acknowledge your presence. Where are you? Wave for recognition, please. Okay, thank you. Also here with her is the Vice Chairman, SPSP Ogun, Eyitayo Jemiri. Please celebrate her especially as well. Let's also acknowledge especially the young ones amidst us who have paid rapt attention and who got here early. Students of the St. Peter's College, Senior Olomori, please put your hands together for yourselves. Where are you? St. Peter's College, I celebrate you. Welcome. Welcome. Please clap for yourselves one more time. Students of Afrograms. Afrograms. You were acknowledged earlier. Up school. St. John's Anglican High School, Kuto. St. John's Anglican High School, Kuto. Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming. Patson Memorial Baptist College. Patson. Okay, please clap for them, especially Lishabi Grammar School. Students of Lishabi Grammar School. Agubiade Victory High School. Agubiade Victory High School, thank you for coming. Students of ESFAM Benin University, Port Novo, Republic du Benin. ESFAM, we celebrate you specially. Students of DS Adegbero ICT Polytechnic, where are you, please? Greatest Bagba. Greatest Bagba. Okay, thank you. Intellectual Heroes Model College. Intellectual Heroes Model College. Thank you. We celebrate you specially. Abeokuta Grammar School. Abeokuta Grammar School, you are welcome. Federal College of Education, Oshiele, Abeokuta. Where are you?
I can't find my school here.
Okay, thank you. Let me also acknowledge the presence of the President, Nigerian Guild of Editors, Eze Anaba. Welcome to our midst. Please celebrate him specially. Thank you for coming today.
I hope the microphone will find. Oh, thank you. Now, if you look at the submissions made by Dr. Otibia, you will agree with me that offline, online narratives about the Nigerian nation are more unfavorable than they are favorable, particularly the online narratives. Now, my question is, what do we do to change the narratives?
Thank you very much. Please permit me to stand on existing protocol. And first, I have to commend the organizers of this PenPushing lecture on its 60th anniversary. And I bring felicitations from Guild of Corporate Online Publishers, of which I am the president. And the PenPushing publisher, Prince Dimeji, I call him, is a member of the Guild of Corporate Online Publishers. How do we change the narratives? And you talked about online, the positivity and the negativity. I can only tell you that it depends on who is speaking, who is talking, and how people are disposed to looking at things. Because if you ask me, online projection of the image of the country or narratives coming from the country is not totally negative. As a matter of fact, as a member of the Guild of Corporate Online Publishers, we have done pretty much more in projecting the narratives coming from this country in a very positive way. But again, it depends on the side you are. If you are pissed off by some of the things happening in governance, then you will see things that way. But let me talk about this national balance and the topic of today. National balance can only be all the mechanisms of government to be deployed evenly across board at the national and at the subnationals, or even at the last tier of governance. If it is not done very well, that's when you have chaos and tension in the society. But if a balance is struck by all the people in government and in the decision-making process, then you will have that there is less tension in the society, and you to ensure that the nation develops faster and everybody is carried along. It will also ensure inclusiveness. And that delivery of his lecture, and also spoke in the language of the CAOs. You know, they have a very dynamic way of projecting views which is not the same way journalists do projects, because we are not advocates. We try in everything we do as journalists do, which I am, to project things in a very balanced way. Project both sides of the divide. There is no country in the world that you have the government performing at optimal, both online and offline. It's to also ensure that there is balance in reportage. All sides must be presented. So I hope this answers your question. Thank you.
Professor Isaac Albert. Now, one of the biggest problems of government across the globe is trust deficit. And it's not peculiar to Nigeria. As a matter of fact, currently in the United States of America, there is a whole lot of hues and cry about trust of government. I want to ask you, sir, if we look at the definition of a nation as given by Dr. Ochivie, is the Nigerian nation born yet? If yes, please bring us up to speed on what we don't know. And if no, where do we go from here? Thank you, sir.
Let me join the others in commending Dr. Igufuzo for this excellent presentation. He has successfully established the point that Nigeria is yet to be a nation. And I will start by saying that you have two types of nations. There is the organic nation. Organic nation is when a people that have same historical antecedents, same storyline of emergence, whether they emerge from wood or stone, you know, they have been together for a very long time, and then they grow up to become a nation that is recognized by the United Nations. Now, in an organic nation, the people are already together. You don't need to preach to them. I'm a Yoruba person. If I see a Yoruba person, you don't need to preach to me that that Yoruba person belongs to the same cultural world with me. But we have another type of nation, the synthetic nation. The synthetic nation is when you draw people from different places and you bring them together. What Yoruba people will call Iruwa Ogiriwa. Now, Nigeria is an Iruwa Ogiriwa. Now, leadership matters in a synthetic nation. River State is not stable today. That is why Kano State is not stable today. That is why several states are not stable. And as a result of that, we have what is called oxymoron. Oxymoron is when you combine two difficult, ideas, and then you create a tension. Nigeria is said to be giant of Africa, yet it is said to be the poverty capital of the world. It's a serious international image problem.
The institutional incapacity is a disservice to good governance. Nigeria has the problem of, as mentioned by Reverend Matthew Hassan Uka, myonization syndrome. When anybody gets there, is a question of our own. And even if he's a thief, it is a question of our thief. And let him be. It is turn by turn. And this tends to weaken institutions when they are meant to be strong and to aid good governance. The question then is, what perspective do you offer on this reality that stares us in the face as a nation?
To PenPushing for the invitation, and to Dr. Abeokuta for facilitating that. I mean, as Dr. Ochivie was speaking, there were some people around me who said, "But we know these things. But we know these things." And it's true. I mean, I was teasing him that when I was reading the paper, as he was I was writing the thing, I said, "Doctor is writing English, so we know these things." But when he now got to the conclusion, I said, I now woke up. especially because of some of the quotes that he used. And I think I say this to say that there's nothing about the Nigerian structure, the myonism, we say we anyhowness, ethnic issues, institutional challenges. There's really nothing about all these things that we don't know at a level. But the question, which is why we come to these lectures, which is why we gather, as they say, where 2 or 3 Nigerians are gathered, Nigeria's problems shall be discussed. We keep talking about these things because we're looking for solutions, because we're trying to figure out why is the giant of Africa not pulling its weight, why are we struggling, why are we the poverty capital of the world? But at the end of the day, my challenge, in a sense, and also a response to that question is, what do we want? From institutional building to infrastructure to our diversity, it's all about us as individuals at the end of the day. So there's nothing wrong, really, if I'm from Daura and in a very fundamental sense, and I pack the people from Daura, and those are, or around Daura, as you said, in government, but they deliver. When they deliver, I won't really care that they're from Daura. Not really. Yes, we can talk about it that it doesn't build national cohesion, but again, Southwest and I pack Lagos boys. But if the fact that you're a Lagos boy, it doesn't stop me, that I'm from Ondo State, from fulfilling my potential, I won't necessarily mind that you're a Lagos boy. But what eventually happens is that I pack them with Lagos boys and it becomes about Lagos, or more particularly about individuals. So what do we want and what are we serious about? I'll end with this. Samadi Yemi was talking about elections and the fact that we need to get good people in office. Dr. Tibe said the same thing. But he then made the point. He said, a thief will not elect a policeman. A thief will only elect a thief. So when we talk about good leaders in government in Nigeria, I think we must recognize that the people we elect into office are a reflection of us. And so until we as Nigerians decide that we want better and we want to do better, we will continue to either not get involved, as Dr. Tibe said, or get involved and say, my thief is better than your own thief. Let's all be ruled by thieves. So let's be okay with it. We have elected thieves. Why are we complaining? Why are we looking for answers when the people did not drop from heaven? They are Nigerians. They are from amongst us. And we celebrate them. When they enter offices, we celebrate them. They are our thieves. When people want to talk about them, you say, leave that one. Shebi will do 4 years and he'll be going. So my own thing in this whole conversation about Nigeria and nation building is that the people who are really the fundamentals in nation building must be clear about what they want for themselves. Until we are clear about what we want and we are clear that we deserve better, let us continue to be merry and talk less, really. Thank you.
And I want to take it from a perspective that I want you to also bear your thoughts on. To the ordinary man on the street, he wants equality. In the practicality of governance, what is doable is equity. Now, how do we make that ordinary Nigerian on the street understand that the state capital cannot develop at the same pace with its community that is about 200 kilometers away from the seat of power? Yet he keeps saying, whatever is in Abeokuta must be in my community. That, to me, is what balance represents. So, using equity and equality as a basis, please bear your thought. Thank you.
At the root of this discourse is the state of Nigeria, the state of the country. And what is the state of the country? We have so much violence everywhere. We have so much poverty. We have so much discrimination. We have so much underdevelopment. To the extent that states, nations that are our peers in the 1940s, in the 1960s, have been able to establish themselves on the global map. But we are in a situation where Nigerian currency is less powerful compared with the currency of Togo, Benin Republic, and other countries that are in West Africa. Those countries that used to be more or less like footnotes, when compared with Nigeria. So we are suffering economic, political, and moral deficit. And I think at the bottom of this is a crisis of the nation state. One of them is the national question, which Dr. Otigbe mentioned. And I think it boils down to the problem of consultation, constructive engagement with the people, where the constitution is made without the collective input of the people that are supposed to obey those laws. And since 1914, that is what we have seen over and over again. The Clifford Constitution, Richard's Constitution, Maffrey's Constitution, the only thing that was close to having a people's constitution was the 1960 Constitution. And there were so many conferences held in Lancaster House in London between our leaders, Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe. They had exhaustive debates. And prior to that 1960 Constitution, there was the Willis Constitution, whereby the representatives went to almost every community, significant community in Nigeria, finding out the fears and aspirations of ethnic minorities. Before we now had the 1960 Constitution, constitutions of a few people. Our constitution the South Africans they received 1 million from groups, community groups, organizations, artisans. I know what happened. The Constitutional Drafting Committee read all the submissions and invited all of them. And when that constitution was made, it was interpreted to 11 South African languages, so that the say that cannot even read the constitution never arose. When we are talking about the national question, we are talking about the need that we cannot build a house from the rooftop. If you want to run a nation, you must consult the people that make up that country. And when we are talking about constitution, we need to recognize our differences. Just like Otigbe said, the idea of trying to pretend that those differences do not exist is what is giving us some sort of violent groups in the north and elsewhere. When some people say they want Sharia, based on their own values and their culture and their heritage, you have to listen to them. Not that you have to crush them with the military. And each time I want to use force, it gets out of hand. It becomes counterproductive. We are talking about oil production in the Niger Delta. Look at what we have just had recently. NNPC talking about people building refineries in Malta. We are talking about refinery, Dangote refinery not being able to meet up. Are we talking about the indigenous people that produce this oil? What is the level of their inclusion in these processes in terms of creation of wealth and distribution of wealth? So there's no way you don't begin to have crisis in our country as long as we don't embrace consultation, constructive engagement, so that we can have laws, constitution that is based out on the informed prior consent of Nigerians, something they agree that is their own law and they are ready to obey it. Unless we go back to this ground norm, I think we'll be having a country that's an atomic society in perpetual conflict with itself. Thank you.
PenPusher and then also the lecturer who dealt very well. And his oratory skills is something that is also noteworthy. But what I'm saying is that we must try in all our political calculations to maintain balance and to be inclusive. And if we are inclusive, it doesn't mean that it has to be 50-50 all the way. But if there is effort made for affirmative action, even if it is 30% or 30% out of 50 or 50-30 or whatever, but let there be measures to show that governance or government or whoever is taking decision, because it's not just at the government level, it's also in all spheres of our life, both in public sector and private sector, that everybody is included. If we are distributing infrastructure, take for instance the rail that is going around or the gas infrastructure. Let's make sure that all the parts of the country are included. If you are building trains, make sure that the trains you are building covers all parts of the country. If you are building roads, make sure that the roads covers all parts of the country. If you are building schools or approving universities, make sure that it covers all parts of the country. If somebody gets one and another person gets two, at least everybody will be satisfied that at least I got something. But when you are distributing national resources and you exclude a part of the country, how do you want that part of the country to feel? And then my co-panelist here talked about what is happening in the Niger Delta. If you go there, you will see what is happening, the degradation there. So, and the money is being used to develop other places. How do you want the people there to feel? You have not included them. So, if effort is made to include them and to do something reasonable there, it will make sense. And there's something I also want to point out, which also drops out of what the lecturer talked about. In our countries, in different places, we have different soil texture because it's talked about the enormous amount of money that was used to build a road. You can build a road that can cost trillions in the Niger Delta because the Niger Delta soil texture is different from what is obtainable here in the southwest or even in the north. It is easier to construct road in the north because of the terrain there. But for you to build in the Niger Delta, you have to do some piling.
Include everybody. It's a fundamental principle of nation building. And I think we are missing out on that in Nigeria. When we say state capture, we are actually not just talking about politicians, but we are saying that the frameworks for making all of us to see Nigeria as our own is missing. I was a federal delegate to the 2014 National Conference. We worked very hard trying to construct or build a new Nigeria. But our report was thrown into a waste paper basket. And when the Buhari administration said it was not going to use the report, I thought that administration would come up with something better. Unfortunately, we have taken the country back. We are now more divided. Our economy is in a very bad state. So the point I'm making is that there's the need for another round of national conversation. We are running away from it. From 1914 to 1960, we had 9 big conferences trying to determine the kind of nation that we wanted then. And we agreed to make Nigeria a federal state. But in 1966, we turned Nigeria into a unitary state. Now, so long as Nigerians are not happy with their country, so long as the young ones are excluded from the opportunities in the country, so long as university lecturers are paid what will not take them for 3 days, so long as things are bad for everybody. Let's go back to the issue of the bad social media. The people we call names in the social media, those who plant fake news, those who become journalists without training. I'm saying here as an analyst, are operating from the context of frustration. They are frustrated. An opportunity to express yourself. So, I do not want us to be blaming the bad media. I mean, I don't want to know which bad media we're referring to. But we are saying that it is the only opportunity they have for expressing themselves. I'm a scholar. We write journal articles. When you read the work of some colleagues, you see the kind of adjectives they use. You know that this paper, yes, this scholar is saying the truth. But you see frustration in his selective of adjectives. You see frustration in his choice of data and so on. So we are frustrated. Now, if our leaders that are enjoying this country want to enjoy better, please let them give a little to the suffering masses. Nigerians are suffering. I'm outside this country at least 3 times in a month.
All African countries are developing. Nigeria is just regressing, and we cannot continue this way. And when we complain, when we talk at meetings like this, I mean, I'm used to it. People meet me at the airport and they say you are abusing us. And I say, I'm not abusing you. And if you say I'm abusing you, you are not the owner of Nigeria. I'm also a Nigerian. So,
very briefly, today I'll be baptized Albert, and I claim it. Because after Albert actually is from a German word, which means famous, bright, you know. But my name is Adewale Adeoye. But I claim that Albert. Well, very briefly, I think our country, before we can regain our lost heritage, we need to go back to our values. Because the capacity or ability to know what to do between right and wrong is a major problem we have in this country. And you see, the government has a lot of important role to play. When we are growing up in our younger days, we will be taught folk stories about Japan and Yonibo. You will be taught about if money drops, you see money and you pick it, Shango will strike. That fear built in us. And when you are in primary school, you are taught, yes, there is about to match it kokoroni. Kokoroti wakunani no alelida. The small ants don't step on it. If you cannot step, you are being asked to step on. How can you think of using knife to kill a human being? Then we are taught that so you are growing up with culture. So you grow up as a complete human being. I want education with culture, and he was able to produce a generation of cultural people who knew what was right and what was wrong, and it was able to guide the society. And I think up to today, we are still benefiting from that. In addition to PenPushing, I congratulate you. It's a very great institution. I want to say that Abeokuta is actually the custodian of media history in Nigeria. The first newspaper, even though publishing started in 1846 in Calabar, there was no publishing until 1859, December 3. And then the second publication by Campbell in 1865, he first came to Abeokuta before moving to Lagos, when he published Anglo-African. And these people established a city as a city of knowledge. So, and he wrote several books. Henry Townsend, Praises and Hymns in Yoruba, Deep in Yoruba, Premier in Yoruba. So I'm challenging PenPushing to establish a library of media history in Abeokuta. And let me also mention that we were looking for the first publication of Yoruba, published in 1859. We couldn't get the first copy until when I went to Yale University, when I saw the first copy, published in 1859. Since that time, so we can't even get it in Nigeria. That was when we wanted to celebrate 150 years of journalism. So I'm challenging PenPushing to establish in Abeokuta the library of media history, and I think it will be worth it. And I believe they have the capacity with Mrs. Fadugba, with Abiola Kyode, wonderful people that are here. I know they can even do more than that. Thank you very much.
Okwe Adamolepo, over to you.
Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
I actually just want to concur with what Dr. Albert has said, because as a people, we don't document very well. And I mean, the Obasanjo Museum that's here, it's controversial as it is, but it's one of 2 museums that the country has that actually document our history. So I think PenPushing this challenge, so maybe by the time we come back for 10th anniversary lecture, you have 4 years to make it happen. But thank you, I think it's a wonderful suggestion. So my closing remark, the fact that we complain a lot about Nigeria tells me that we care. It tells me that we believe that Nigeria can be better, and it also tells me that we believe, maybe in some way, that we deserve better. So we gather together, we talk about the issues, we moan, we complain, and all of that. But I think there's a disconnect between believing that Nigeria can be better, believing that we deserve better, and then being willing to do the work to make Nigeria better. Nigeria is not going to be better by talking. Nobody outside Nigeria is going to fix Nigeria. Not Chad people, not Cameroon people who are trying to chase their 93-year-old president away, not Niger, which is currently under military rule, not Benin, who is next door that we provide electricity to. So if we are not international anybody, because that's another conversation. So if we really care as we say we do about Nigeria, and Nigeria's dysfunction really makes us this angry, then we must decide that we want to do something. I mean, I said it tongue-in-cheek earlier that otherwise we just stop talking and be merry. Yes, and it's a choice. There's a quote that Dr. Otive has in his paper from Edmund Burke that says, "For evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." I paraphrase that and I say, evil will be amplified because good people choose to be silent. It's a choice. It's a choice that we make every day in how we interact at work, how we work in our communities, when we see bad things that happen and say, I don't really care. When people want to protest and say, oh, they're just making noise. When people write and we say they're just talking. Whatever it is and however we respond, it is a choice that we are making, quote and unquote, good people, to be silent, and evil continues to be amplified, and that's what we complain about. Prof talked about, they might say you're abusing us, but if the abuse actually affected them, Prof, would they not do better? So they said we're abusing them, but it doesn't change anything. What changes anything, at least in my experience in this Nigerian context, is when the political elite feel threatened. That's the only thing that gets them to move, is when their power is threatened. As in a democracy, unfortunately we associate a democracy with elections, and we say once we do elections, we're done. But elections are just the beginning. The real work is in holding people we've elected accountable, and that is what gets them paying attention, when people know that they have voice and choose to use their voice. So I encourage you, instead of using your voice to complain about all the things Nigeria is not good at or could be better at, use your voice to talk about what Nigeria is good at, what you want for Nigeria, and engage the people that you've elected in office to do their jobs. At the end of the day, politicians have a job. They get paid. They work for you and I. So I think if we remember that, it might help us in engaging them a bit better. Again, evil is amplified because good people choose to be silent. Thank you.
Honorary Chibu, Professor Isaac Albert, newly christened Mr. Albert Adewale Adeoye, and of course Okoyemi Adamule. Thank you for your perspective, and we believe that as we proceed in the quest for nation building, more perspective will take us into clearer.
The sociologists would say only 5% of the society would lead the society. It is that critical 5% that we should be addressing ourselves to. How we can identify them, how we can motivate them, how we can support them, how we will make sure that they don't give up. Think that the 237 million, if that is the true figure, we shame, then we are deceiving ourselves. We must be looking, and I think that is the whole essence of what the lecturer was talking about, a national movement that will consist of these 5 people. In my business, we call them gatekeepers. Some other people call them dog handlers. They are the people that will lead the masses into this goal that we want to achieve. They are the ones that will hold that critical level. This is what Nigeria ought to be, and we are going to lead all of us there. And I think all of you here, you should accept today with Speaker to be the initiators, with the pen pushers too, this national movement that will take Nigeria to the desired goal. Not all of us are educated enough. Not all of us are committed enough. Not all of us are aware enough of where Nigeria can be. But those of you who are privileged to know where Nigeria could be should be the one to lead us to where Nigeria should be. It makes sense.
Cannot be solved by being alone. What can we do? If we get a paper, I have outlined what we can do. First, we need to participate in politics. Second, we need to engage in movement organizing. Third, we need to develop transformative leaders. And fourth, we form a developmentalist coalition. So what we need to do is clearly outlined in the keynote address. Talk and nothing is done. Who are the government? You know, that is a way of demobilizing people and blaming those who you should not blame. When we say we are all part of government, we are not. There are government officials, there are citizens. If you are a citizen, you can't claim to be in government. You don't know where decisions are made. So let's be clear about that. Ways by which we can know. First, learning. We are supposed to know by learning in schools. But I remember very clearly the first social studies lesson that I had was why Africa remained a dark continent for a long time. And the opening statement was that Africa is considered a dark continent because it is not known to the Europeans. So that's what they are teaching us in Africa. That because our continent is not known to the Europeans, it's dark continent. If the Europeans were teaching that, it will be okay. But they are teaching it to us. In fact, what annoyed me was when I looked at the books of my children, and they are still teaching them that Mongo Park discovered River Niger. How can Mongo Park discover River Niger? What is the meaning of discover? So, yes, but you can unlearn. The second way in which you can learn is private study participation. Why did that happen? Because at the university, I belong to a Marxist Leninist organization called League of Patriotic Students. The books I had in Marxism were more than the books I had in pharmacy when I was reading my bachelor's degree. So you can deliberately choose to learn about how society is organized, about how other countries have done what they have done, about how changes come to happen in any country. It has to be a conscious effort. The missing link, the media. Yes, the media was not missing in my proposition. The progressive media should be part of the developmentalist coalition, because we know that there is conservative media. He's a visionary, and we did not allow Awo to rule. Well, Nigeria as a whole may not have allowed Awo to rule, but Awo ruled, and Awo is still ruling. My father, in my village in Delta State, was a member of Action Group. Even though Action Group did not win in my state, but my father was member of Action Group. I became a member of UPN. I was in SDP, and now I'm in APC, and my children will continue in that progressive path. I'm sure you can see my cap. This is the cap. It's not. I didn't wear it because I'm coming here. This is the cap I wear. And Nigeria, but our rule in the hearts of people of Nigeria, and up to today, our is still ruling. We should not look at leadership in terms of position alone. How can we produce visionary leaders? We can produce visionary leaders through training, through experience, through mentoring and through example. We need to believe in people before we choose them. I agree completely with that. And then finally, my brother, who is an incurable optimist, I agree with you completely that we can fix this country. And that let's not, I think we should go away from this place. We so tell you from my own personal experience, all demonstrations, when I say all major demonstrations that happen in this country from 1980s to 2012 January uprising, I participated in planning them. But at a point in time, I was worried that nothing is happening. This young generation are not doing anything. But NSAS, when it came, I didn't know anybody among them. But it happened. So don't think that the change will come in your own mode or the way you want it. Young people are moving, and change is inevitable in any society when the conditions are right. Whether they like it or not, change will come.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please put your hands together for yourselves. You've been a wonderful audience all this while. So on that note, I'll pass the microphone to Emmanuel for him to take it over from here.
Let's give them a sounding applause for their great work and intellectual dissection of the topic so far.
Abiola, Akiode, Abiola. Can we please put it together for the general herself?
General.
You don't have President General among the names.
Abiola, Akiode, can you please step up? As well, for those of us who may not have been informed, Dr. Abiola happened to be the chair of the 5th anniversary of PenPushing Media, and of course, she's also the chair of the 6th anniversary. About 3 years ago, she single-handedly funded the feeding. Last year, she committed quite a substantial amount. You have heard what His Excellency Senator Abeokuta said about her, and of course, her effort to PenPushing Media. I don't know how really to quantify and describe it. And so, may I humbly call on His Excellency Ambassador Sharafa Tuji Ishola to be supported by the founder of the PenPushing Media and of course all the members of the editorial board to present the award, and of course all the members of the planning committee.
Quality Leadership Award presented to Dr. Abiola Akiyode Afolabi in recognition of the exemplary leadership contributions to the growth of PenPushing Media. Granted today, Thursday, 25th July 2024. Congratulations.
Personally, it gives me tremendous delight to surprise you on behalf of the founder and all your colleagues in presenting this PenPushing Media Quality Leadership Award to you, Deaconess Funke Faduba, in recognition of your exemplary leadership contribution to the growth of PenPushing Media. Granted this day, Thursday, 25th July 2024. And on behalf of all of us here, I say congratulations.
I'm a pioneer member of PenPushing, and I say that proudly
anytime. Let me seize this opportunity to acknowledge the efforts of the chairman, my sister Funke Faduga, and the musketeer behind the scene. We all know him, Kayode Adedeji. All members of the editorial team, indeed all members of the PenPushing, because PenPushing platform, at least to some extent in Ogun State, really redefined journalism. That is one platform that you don't find junks. If you post any junk, you will be removed, no matter how you, and you know Mrs. Faduga is a no-nonsense woman. She will not tolerate that. So let me congratulate you on this occasion. And like I always say,